Thank you. Does this have a gallery view like Zoom? Because I can't see everybody's little links.
So you can change the layout. There is an option in the setting, the 3 dots. Change the layout and pull it to the maximum. Up to 49 students, you can visible over there.
Change tiled. Tiled. Yeah.
The tiles to the maximum, to the right side, to your right side.
That's it. I've got them all now.
Dear students, why are you feeling so shy? Just turn on your cameras.
Fab. Yeah, now we can see everybody. That's lovely.
Just turn on your camera.
Hi there.
Okay. So, nice to meet you.
Do you want to come in and say hello? Absolutely. We've got our headmasters come to say hello. So if you get the cameras just there, Mr. Harvey.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Morning. Thank you very much for setting up this link. It's fascinating. I hope you're all well.
Definitely. Hope you're doing well.
I'll sit in for a wee minute or two if you don't mind, but it's lovely to see you all. Thank you very much.
Mr. Harvey. That's perfect. So yeah, that's Mr. Harvey. He's our headmaster. What now? You call your headmaster something else, don't you? What do you call your headmaster?
We address him or her by principal.
Principal. Yeah. So that's what they have there. That's what they call it. So we call him the headmaster here, or sometimes head teacher, depending on.
Or sometimes.
Yes, we are also using head teacher where generally, but the headmaster term is used for the government school. Government school principal of the head.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So how are you all today, everybody?
Okay, so how we'll start the session by qualitative assessment from our side or from the your side, Maura?
Oh, hang on, I've got children going past the window, so I'm having trouble hearing what you're saying. Would you mind repeating yourself, please, Kunal?
So I was about to say that how we'll start the session today. It will be from your side, or should we start from our side? And what will be the process like? Just reading out the questions and then whatever the data they have collected from the interviewee. So they'll just read it out, or like what?
Yeah, so we went over it yesterday to see, you know, what we'd found out from the people that we'd spoken to. It was really, really interesting. And what we did is we sort of talked about what we found out that was the same, you know, so where there were, you know, there was a lot of agreement with all the old people about how things had changed over time. So, you know, we've got children in the class who'd be happy to share that if you like, but would you like us to start?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, perfect. Fab.
Okay.
So if I've got the questions. So maybe if we try and remember what we said. So would you like to start, Olivia? Because and let them know. So the first question was, well, the people that we asked were between the ages of 62 and 89, and everybody that we interviewed was in the UK. So we'll start there. So what animals were we able to see when they were young? So we'll be going back at least 60 years here.
So we saw a lot of songbirds, a lot of corded birds, quite a lot of game birds, no rat birds at all, lots of rabbits, a few hares, foxes, and some badgers.
Did you hear it?
I think it was really hard to hear.
Voice was little breaking down.
Okay, so she's got this written down. So she could see they were, really most of them agreed that there were lots of small songbirds, things like crows, so carrion feeders, game birds, but not as many as now. They didn't really see any raptors, so any kind of eagles or kestrels or anything like that in those days. Plenty of rabbits, a few hares and foxes, very few badgers. So they were quite rare back then. But there's more now because we protected the badger. And so now you see an awful lot more badgers, but consequently less hedgehogs because the badgers eat.
Honey badgers? Is it honey badgers? If you're talking about, oh, those are different.
Our badgers are quite big. They're black and white. They build themselves homes in the ground, and they're carnivorous and nocturnal. So, and so they're quite big, aren't they? What would you say? What sort of size?
Small dog size.
Like a
medium-sized dog.
Like a medium-sized dog. They're quite big.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Okay. Now, what was the change? Would anybody like to just tell us what's been the change in the animals that we see now? Go on then, Emily, nice and loud.
People are seeing a lot more badgers because of them not being, well, because of them being protected now, and less rabbits and hares, and about the same amount of deer and squirrels and small things like that.
Less.
About
the same. So some things are about the same. More badgers. And what was the story with the game birds? Did we think there were more now? So we think there are more. So one of the big businesses in Scotland now is people coming to go hunting, shooting. And so a lot of the woodland is managed for game birds like pheasants, which aren't native, but also the grouse more. And people come from all over the world to come shooting in Scotland. So there are more game birds around. And what about the hunting birds? Did any of your grandparents talk about whether there were more or less of them? What do you think, Mr. Harvey?
Definitely. There are definitely more raptors now, buzzards in particular.
Right.
Because I remember as a young boy, it was very rare to see a kestrel even, or a buzzard, but now it's very common.
And is that conservation, do you think? Because they've been protected?
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of hunted a lot of our large birds to near extinction, but they've been protected over the last 50 years or so, so their numbers are increasing. And there's little pockets in Scotland, things like ospreys, where you'd find them, but they're like places where you'd go on holiday to go and see them, because they've become centres where you can see those birds.
Sea eagles as well.
Sea eagles, golden eagle.
And it's now a serious criminal offence to steal osprey eggs. Yeah. You can actually be jailed for stealing osprey eggs.
It used to be a huge hobby collecting birds' eggs in the 1960s and 50s, and so a lot of the large birds of prey became near extinct because people were collecting their eggs or shooting them for using them for game, basically for shooting.
But yeah, now they're very well protected, and it's very serious if you're caught doing anything like that in Scotland. So that's been an improvement, which is good. That's good to hear. Okay, right, let's see who'd like to tell us anything that we've noticed about the plants. Did anybody interview anyone who said they noticed something different about the plants? Somebody who's talking about trees. Is it you, Finlay? Do you want to come forward and actually just come and speak into the camera so we can hear you?
Yeah, I have
flowers. Oh yeah, come and tell us about that. Finley's going to just actually come and speak into the camera so that you can hear him, so we don't have to repeat what he's saying.
Nice and loud.
Yeah. Nice and loud. They're quite far away.
Funny. My grandparents said that there's a lot more flowers over the 30 or 40. There's a lot more flowers over the last 30 or 40 years because of like preservation work on like meadows and garden flowers.
Because people are more aware now, I think. Yeah, that's it, exactly. Yeah, so there's been an awful lot of conservation work being done. And Mr. Rawson and I talked about how we worked when we were young, replanting hedges with charity, or with I worked with the Scottish Wildlife Trust, and you did it for a job in the summer. There was a time when they were pulling all the hedges up, and then there was lots of money that was given to farmers for putting the hedges back in. So hedges are very important in Scotland for songbird habitats, and also for wildlife corridors for small mammals, for them to be able to hide underneath the grass and under the bushes. So there was a lot of money given to farmers for putting the hedges back in. My projects were funded by the EU, so the farmers got a free fence if they let us come and put the hedges in. So that was a good incentive. So yeah, there's more hedges now than there were 50 years ago, because there was a big move to cut them all down to make room for big tractors, to make it easier to plough huge fields. Good. That was great. Thanks, Finley.
So to all Nepali students, if you have any questions that you want to address now, you also feel free to ask them now about what they are saying, or if there is some words that you don't understand, or like animals, or just feel free to just ask. Yeah?
Yes.
Does everyone have a question?
They will ask later on, I think.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Bruce. I've just come in a little bit late. There's a kind of tree that's native around here in the south of Scotland called ash. I mean, we have it all over Britain, but it suffers from a disease called ash dieback, and the ash trees in this country have been dying for a few years, and you're really starting to notice that in this area. So again, there's lots of grants given to farmers and other people who live in the countryside to plant new trees to replace all the ash that are dying. So we actually, I live on a farm, and we've recently planted 50 trees, and we're hopefully going to get another grant to do more this year.
Olivia just had one more thing to say, because her family are in the south of England, so they've noticed something about a change in the agriculture down there.
So there used to be a lot of vineyards, particularly one in Brockley, which is South of England, about 30 years old. And apparently there was wine also grown in England in Rome 2,000 years ago.
Are they still there, or are they gone?
They're still there.
They're still there. So yeah, there's still some really old vineyards, and they seem to be being preserved. And actually English wine is quite nice. But that's because of climate change. So things are getting warmer, and we're able to grow. In fact, there's a vineyard in Fife. I don't know how they're getting on.
Right.
I mean, you know, he's waiting for the world to get warmer. He's like, he's sort of proactive. It's not very positive in a way, but he kind of 10 years ago started planting grapevines in Fife, which is kind of north of us in Scotland, expecting the climate to get warm enough for him to be able to grow wine grapes there.
Some of the big French wine producers have started buying up farms in the south of England and have been planting vines down there to grow, because they think it's going to be a better climate than France in 10, 15 years' time.
Yeah, it's getting too hot
Yeah.
in some of the parts of France to actually grow their grapes the way they like them, so they're growing them up here. Weird. So going on then to climate change. So, BT, did your grandparents say anything about how they were impacted by climate change? Do you want to come? So this is BT's going to come and speak to you now.
Hi. My grandparents said that there was more similarities in the seasons, and it used to be that you had like the summer, which was not really hot, but it was more hot than the rest of the year, and then winter, which would be more cold. But now it's more similar all over the rest of the year.
That's cool. Who was it who said that their grandparents about the wardrobe? Who's that? They had to change the way they buy their clothes. Somebody said that yesterday. Don't be shy.
It's one wardrobe for all year round.
Yeah, that they used to have like clothes they wore in the winter and clothes they wore in the summer, but they don't need that anymore. They can wear the same clothes in January that they wear in June. It's the same. I mean, it was 8 degrees last Thursday. You know, 8 degrees in June, 8 degrees in January, the same. You know, I don't. Who was that? Remember? Who would like to say what Mr. Stewart was saying about what he used to do in the winter in Grantown? Do you want me to, Freya? So, yes, this is my father-in-law who we interviewed. He always loves to tell us about his winters in Grantown, so he was telling us about them yesterday. Grantown-on-Spey is in the Cairngorm, so it's mountainous. It's in the sort of northwest of Scotland where the mountains, some of the mountains are.
Hi, so what you used to be able to do was you'd be able to ski to school. So you could, it used to be so cold that you could just ski and all the lakes and rivers used to be frozen. But because of climate change, they don't freeze over anymore.
Actually, the thing is, we only saw those things in movies. Frozen lakes and seas and rivers, like only in movies, not aware.
I've actually seen a film clip of Mr. Stewart when he was about 12 years old, skiing to school. It was on the news, and you can go on YouTube and watch it. Because it was very exciting, you know. And we had this tradition in Scotland of curling. It's a sport where you have these great big stones and you push them along.
Need to slide it down like that.
Yes.
And
You used to do that outside. You used to be able to do that outside. In fact, in my village, we have curling ponds, which don't freeze over anymore. So they're just wildlife habitats, but they used to freeze in the winter, and you could curl in your village. Now you have to play inside in an ice rink that's been frozen by electricity. You can't play it outside anymore.
Most border towns have outdoor, well, they have places where they would have curling competitions outdoor. And in fact, in the Hursel Estate, a conservation estate nearby, that lake used to freeze over regularly, and I've got a photograph of my father ice skating across the middle of the lake. You would never do that now.
No, even I did that as a child until I was about 12. Every winter we would ice skate on the frozen ponds at home.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
You would never do that now.
No, it's not cold enough. Yeah. Cool. So does anyone else have anything to add that their grandparents said about climate change? Just put your hand up if you want to speak. Or any way that they've changed their way of living? Even if it was no change. Yeah, go on, Emily, nice and loud.
Well, my granddad, he was a farmer, and when they had once the crops, the good part of the crops been taken away and it was just stubble left, they used to burn them. And he said that they had to stop doing that because they realized it was terrible for the environment. So that was a change that they
Change in farming practices.
Yes, apply for a license to do that.
Right. Okay.
It's good for the soil, but it wasn't good for the
Fantastic. Thanks, Emily. Anybody else got anything? Yeah. No, you look like you were going to say something there.
You mentioned our very dry springs that we've had that are causing trouble to the farmers.
Does anyone say anything about that? I don't think so. Oh, somebody said that we got one grandparent said that now you have instead of it just being rainy, sunny, there's big chunks of time when it rains like mad and we get flooding, and then long periods of time when there's no rain at all. And that's also quite different. And I remember that from being a kid, actually, that, it would be nice weather, but it would rain, 2 or 3 times a week. Now it's either raining for days and days and days and days, or it's not raining at all for weeks. And that's new as well. The rivers are very low at the moment.
Yeah. When I was the same age as these pupils, or your pupils, there was a major problem with a plant called hogweed. And in the hot summers, the hogweed used to take over riverbanks. And that became an issue because people pushing their way through hogweed to go and swim in the river, if the stem or the leaves were broken, the sap would cause blistering on their skin. And there was a massive health issue in the 70s in the borders because so many children in the summer holidays were coming into hospital with serious burns and blisters from the hogweed. And of course, so they treated the hogweed, they cut it all back and cut it all down. It kept coming back, but now it's not even a problem and they don't have to treat it. So it doesn't grow to the same extent that they did in the 70s.
Because of the change in the weather?
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. So I think, does anyone want to say anything else that they learned or they found out about? Yes, Blair, nice and loud.
My auntie thinks the tap will do.
So that's one positive. Blair's noticed that the quality of the drinking water is better. Oh, was life expectancy? That was the other one, wasn't it? Do we think we're healthier? I'm missing that question. Most older people are saying that their friends are living for longer than they used to when they were children. They think that people don't smoke as much.
Yeah.
That's a huge change here. I mean, when I was a kid, every single grown-up I knew smoked, and they smoked everywhere.
In the car, in
the staff room at school, in restaurants, pubs, every bus, airplanes, everywhere. You're not allowed to smoke anywhere in public places anymore, and not very many people smoke. So some of the older people thought that was attributed to that. And Neil said things like polio were a real problem when he was a boy, but not anymore because of immunization and better health care. People said that there was better health care, so they're living for longer. Some of you said that. They're being very shy, but they did say all this yesterday. I'm not making it up.
The other day, you and Glendinning, a chap who's helping out the school, found not a newsletter, but diary entry in the archives about smallpox vaccinations and scarlet fever.
Right.
And there was an outbreak of scarlet fever in 1939, and a number of pupils were here at school who caught scarlet fever and had to be quarantined, isolated in the school.
But you know, you can treat that with antibiotics now, can't you? Yeah, because I had scarlet fever when I was a kid. So yeah, we have better health care now than they did when they were young, and immunization seems to have made a big difference. And finally, how many of your grandparents knew why the climate was changing? Just put your hands up if you asked somebody, do you know why the climate's changing, and they gave you an answer that made sense. Just put your hand up if they knew. Your hands right up so we can see. Hands up how many people their grandparents didn't really know about climate change and why it was happening. So we were about 50% of the grandparents knew that there were things that were happening and could say things about climate change, and about 50% didn't know. Anyone whose grandparents said, or neighbours said something about what they could do. Go on then, Beatty, nice and loud.
They said they could use the car less and not do as many fires or not use like motor vehicles.
So reduction in the use of vehicles. Yeah, driving less. Emily?
And don't use central heating when it's not needed, like not overusing that.
Okay, yeah, so using your heating less, so switching it off if you don't need it. Freya? Yeah, so they thought that trees were important, so try not to cut down the trees. Finley?
My grandparents said that they should recycle.
So it talked about recycling, the importance of recycling. Zara? Eating less red meat. So that was one pretty switched on granddad over there. So yeah, eating less red meat. That's relatively new, probably the last 3 years or so. Particularly young people, both my daughters, one's 19, one's 21, they're both vegan. So it's very common now for young people to either be vegetarian or vegan. And that's seen as an important change that you can make in your life to reduce your carbon footprint. To not be eating meat. So that's very popular in Britain now. You would very rarely go somewhere now where there weren't vegan options on the menu. There's lots of vegan alternatives in the supermarkets as well. That market has increased massively in the last 2 or 3 years. It's been a huge change, but it impacts mostly on young people. Most of us who are used to eating meat, we're quite happy to keep eating it. So, but yeah, I would say probably half of my children's friends are either vegetarian or vegan at the moment, you know, in there.
They need to ban McDonald's.
Well, Burger King, that Burger King have now got a vegan hamburger. That's just come out in the last couple of weeks, and Kentucky Fried Chicken now have a fake chicken burger as well. Yeah. That's some kind of fake soy chicken substitute. So, I mean, that's, you know, that's responding to the number of people. There's enough people wanting a vegan burger that it's worth these huge chains having a vegan option. So yeah, really interesting. Big change. That's a big cultural change for young people in Scotland. Yeah. That's us finished anyway. We're dying. We're really, really keen to hear what you found out, everyone, at the monastic school.
Okay, thank you, Maura. That was very nice for every student that they have collected the data so far. Well, my student have already presented today. We have just a kind of drill that how they will present today. So all of them have collected the data from the interviewee around their home or inside their family, from their grandparents and from their neighbors. So shall I just ask them to, okay, fine, who will tell the question number 1, or they'll just have one student pick it up and reading all of the answers? Okay, so Aman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, could you just read out the question number 1?
What animals could you see in this area when you were young, and how often did you used to see them?
Okay, and what was the reply of that person? Just name the
Uh,
just tell the age of that person and the
78 years.
location. Okay, and what did he say or she say?
When I was young, I used to see ox, through which I used to plow the field to grow crops. I always used to see them.
Okay, and repeat once again.
When I was young, I used to see ox, through which I used to plow the field to grow crops. I always used to see them.
Okay, so he's probably talking about the ox. People used to plow the field using them, and now they have been replaced by the tractors and other machines in agriculture. So, okay, fine. Second one.
Do you see these animals nowadays? If so, how often?
Okay, and what did he say?
Yes, I see these animals nowadays, but they are disappearing day by day.
Okay,
Only few
disappearing.
are.
Right. Only few left. Okay, fine. Second question, who would like to tell? Lakshmi?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is the second question?
Do you see these animals nowadays? If so,
Okay,
how
go for
often?
the third one. Go for the third one.
Sorry, sir.
Third
Mawara,
question.
can you mute yourself? I think that the sound is kind of going into the classroom, and let's see if it works better if you mute yourself.
First and second question
Let's
is
try now.
related. You go for the third one, Lakshmi.
Okay, sir. A third question. Have you noticed any changes in the plants of this area during the last 30 decades? He replied, in those days, due to timely rainfall, plants were growing healthy and people were growing trees, but nowadays they are destroying it for their own settlements.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Lakshmi.
Thank you, sir.
Next question, question number 4. Who would like to tell? Nandita?
Yes, sir.
Read the question first.
Sir, have you noticed any change in the climate of this area in the last 30 and 40 years? Example, does it rain more or less? Does it snow more or less? Does it is warmer or colder? Then he replied me that, yes, of course, I have noticed many changes in the climate of this area. In the last 30 and 40 years, like during this year, there is not too much hot, but the rains are also fall sometimes, and climate is getting hotter day by day.
Okay, thank you very much, Nandita. So we'll be moving to the next question. Who will volunteer to answer? Simran?
Sir, shall I?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Simran, you go for the next question.
So what number?
Question number 5, I think. Nandita, which question you have just told?
Sir, 4 number.
Okay, fine. Simran, 5.
Question is, if so, did you have to change your way of living to adapt the changing climate? She replied in this way, yes, we have to adjust ourselves according to the climate. As for instance, we have to wear woolen clothes in winter and thin light clothes in summer. I also had to change my lifestyle according to the condition of climate. We only can survive if we change our way of living according to condition of climate, but I never moved to another place during these years.
Okay, any other student with some different answers?
Sir,
Okay, Nikhil.
I asked with he, if so, did you have to change your way of living to adopt the changing climate? Example, changing the crops, move to a place with more water available. Then he replied me, yes, we have to change the way of living to adopt to the changing climate, people are using very much chemical fertilizer nowadays, and crops are also not suitable for eating. And in the time of rainfall, the rainfall not occurring, and the rainfall occurring in unseasonal ways. And also people are moved to place where there is fertile land to do agriculture.
Thank you very much, Nikhil. Now we'll be moving to the next question. That is question number 6. Suryanshu, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just read the question.
Have you noticed a change in people's health over the year? Then he answered that he put forward the earlier people used to be healthy and they live in a healthy environment, having the strong immunity. But nowadays the immunity, as the increase in pollution, the immunity system of a human is decreasing day by day and often they get sick.
Okay, thank you very much, Suryanshu. Now we'll be moving to the next question. Asanshu, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, read the question.
So I asked the question that have you noticed any change to the season of the year? So he answered me like this. He said, yes, winter season is very short and the season is unbalanced now. It means that the now winter season is very short and winter season also it rains. In winter season also it rains and summer comes earlier.
Okay, any other student with different answer of this question?
Yes, sir. Shall I?
Yes, Simran.
I asked her, have you noticed any change to the season over the years? She responded this answer by saying, yes, I noticed many things. Few years ago, there were not so much hot atmosphere in past. We did not used to feel so much hot, but nowadays, during summer season, it is unbearable hot. We can't even go out of house in sunny days. Temperature is getting hotter and hotter. Summer are growing longer due to climate change, while winters are dramatically shrinking. The earth is warming and disturbing the balance of the seasons.
Definitely, thank you. Now we'll be moving on to the next question. Bhumika, have you got a turn?
No, sir.
Okay, so you just read the question and tell what you have collected the data so far.
Yes, sir.
Turn on the camera.
Yes, sir. Do you know what could be the cause of the changes? And if I asked with her, and she replied that the causes are deforestation, air pollution, global warming, and environmental pollution.
Okay. Any other student with some different feedback reply?
Yes, sir. When I asked him, he said excessive use of natural resources, unplanned urbanization, and industrialization could be the causes of these changes.
Okay, thank you. Any other student?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Anvesh.
Sir, he answered me that unplanned development and lack of decomposition of plastic is the main cause, because it is the root cause of creation of every type of pollution.
Okay. Thank you, Anvesh. Now we'll be moving on to the next question. Who would like to volunteer? Akanksha?
Yes, sir.
Okay, read the next question.
The question is, do you know what could be the causes of these changes? And she replied, nowadays natural time for each seasons are changed. Sometimes it is very sunny days without rainfall, and sometimes when rainfall is too heavy, that causes to destroy the hard work of farmers or crops. The nature is getting affected due to over modernization, over industrialization, and less plantation.
Okay, good. Okay, now we'll be moving on to the next question. Anvesh, could you just read that next question?
Sir, Nine Rama.
Yes.
Do you think there is anything you can do to decrease climate change? Then he replied, yes, I can do many things. And they are, I can plant much trees as I can. I can stop people from doing deforestation. I can help in management of plastics. I can run the awareness camping. I can I can make people conscious.
Okay, Monisha, do you have some different answer? Monisha? Monisha?
Yes, sir.
Okay, last question. What have you collected from your survey? Could just read the question and read the answer that you get. Have you prepared or not your survey question?
Sir, which number?
Last one.
Do you think there is anything you can do? Yes, of course, there is many things which we can do, like by stopping deforestation and start to doing afforestation, and by creating awareness program, by telling that if we will not protect our world from this huge problem, then we will get sick, and we should not throw the garbage here and there, because due to this also our climate and season and our health will be bad. So whatever I can do for this I will do, but I can't do it alone. All of you have to help me to protect them.
Okay. Any other student want to add on?
Sir, may I?
The last question. Yes, Akanksha.
She replied me that the most important thing she liked to say is that the first of all people should try to eat healthy, live healthy by the left hand of the country, farmers. We should plant trees around us and try to manage waste or garbage by a natural way, like converting it into compost manure and using it in our field for growing crops.
Very good. Good. Okay. So I think everyone has got that done. So this is the from our side. So anything more is there left? Then we'll definitely do it.
So I think it would be really nice if someone summarizes if you see any differences between the answers from Nepal and from Scotland.
Okay, let's
Would
start.
anyone like to summarize?
Suryanshu?
Yes, sir.
Will you volunteer?
Yeah. There is a lot of difference between the weather of Nepal and Scotland, as Nepal is a subtropical and tropical climate over the hot season and winter season. In the hot season, its temperature is around 30 to 40, and when it's cold, its temperature is around 12 to 24 or 25. But when you see in the Scotland, it's maximum temperature in the hot climate is around 25 or 26, and in the winter it goes around minus I don't know exact temperature. So there is this differences between the temperature of Nepal and the Scotland.
Do you want to add anything, Mawara? Yes.
Yeah, so he was just asking what our winters are like. So about 5 degrees.
Minus 5?
Plus, we don't, as we say, that's one of the big changes that the grandparents have noticed is we used to have much colder winters, more snow. And so average temperature is probably about 5 degrees or so. We get the odd cold snap where we might have a few days of weather, particularly if we have weather that comes to us from the northeast. Most of our weather comes from the southwest across the Atlantic via something called the Gulf Stream. So that keeps the winters mild. But in this wintertime, if the weather comes from the Arctic, then we tend to get much colder weather. So last week when it was 8 degrees in June, which is, weird, we had a north wind. And so the weather had changed direction, was coming from the north rather than from the southwest. So it was very cold for a couple of days last week, and stormy. It's a very strong, sort of stormy weather we had sort of Thursday, Friday last week. And today we're back to 20 degrees. The weather's changed again, so the wind has changed direction. We're back to sort of 18, 20 degrees, which is pretty normal for us in the summertime. Yeah.
Okay, last 2 days here in Janakpur, it was a very, we faced a lot of heavy rainfall with a very big thunder lightning. And prior to that day, like the day before yesterday, it was very hot. The temperature was around 36. Today, the temperature is 32 degrees Celsius. And yes, and it's still started raining today also in the morning time. I think according to your time, it's around morning 6 to 7 for I think 1.5 hours, and then now it's okay, but still we can feel the hotness over here.
So I think if you,
we've still got our jumpers on.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I think it is quite nice if you realize that it seems in both in Nepal and Scotland, the climate has turned to become warmer, right? So this is what scientists say. So I think we all know now that this is true. So I think this is quite nice that you've been able to get this information from your families and older members. And I think something that also is quite nice to see is that meanwhile in Nepal, slowly, things are going like a bit worse in the sense that there is more deforestation, they are building more houses, there are less plants and trees. In Scotland, it's moving towards the other side. Did you realize? So now they have more animals in Scotland because of preservation. Yeah, so does anyone want to add anything about this, which I think is a very interesting point?
Well, in terms of some of the students have got different answers from each other regarding the question number one, that what kind of animals they used to see when they were small. So they add on different types of bird, for example, eagles and vultures and the sparrows. They are missing these days. Okay, and we do not see those birds right now. So these are all affected with the climate change, more settlements, okay, and less food and water for their survival. So they are lacking on that. And of course, the climate has worsened a lot. The temperature keeps on increasing in every summer season. The rainfall, it's untimely, and when it is happening right now, so it's like a more amount of rainfall. And of course, Nepal has faced lots of flood-like situation in different places in Nepal, and in which there is lots of loss in property as well as lives.
We've got Finley wanted to say something. Finley, what did you want to say?
Do you guys ever get snow in winter in Nepal?
Are you still getting snowfall? Finley's wondering if it's still snowing sometimes.
No, snowfall happens only in the Himalayan region. Okay. Basically, Nepal is divided into 3 geographical regions. We are having Tarai, hotter climate. Then we have hilly region. It's a moderate climate is over there. And then we have Himalayan region. It's cold and climatic and snowfall throughout the year. There are some places in Nepal which receives snowfall, and when it's received, it's very like sudden and surprise that how did the snow fall? Okay, and whenever there is snowfall, so you know that people used to make different types of TikTok videos like that. So they used to go to that places in a very much hurry up. So yes, we receive rainfall, but not in the all the places which falls under the Himalayan region. Some places.
But I can add something here. There is a school we are also working that is from the Himalayan region, and we've also done this qualitative assessment. And they are saying that in the Himalayas, so in places like the Everest, it is snowing much less now.
Yes.
They did this year, they didn't get any snow during winter, and they got most of the snow like in March, April, which again, it's much later than they used to get it and much less snow.
And due to what you can say, due to the climate change, the changes can be seen upon the insects as well as birds. Okay, like for example, whenever the small birds lays eggs, okay, and whenever the birds come out, they depends upon the insects. But insects hatch out very soon as the summer season arrives early. So the birds do not have enough insects to eat them, and then they will lack of starvation, so they will die. So this is how climate change has affected both the small thing, that is insects, as well as the bird. They do not have enough food to survive on.
That's one of the projects that we're working on. Well, that's the main project that we're working on for the ECO Committee. Similar, so what we're being encouraged to do here is, because insects are waking up earlier, is to try and plant flowers that flower in February and March to provide early nectar for things like the bees, so that when they wake up earlier, there's food for them. At this time of year, there's plenty of flowers, but we need more spring flowering plants. So that's one of the things we're working on here at the school, is to investigate which plants would be flowering in the early spring, and then add them to the school grounds. To try and, because again, it's the same problem for us too, that these animals, the insects are waking up too early and there's nothing for them to eat. And so, you know, that has a knock-on effect for the whole ecosystem.
But we have this, we have the same situation with small songbirds where the caterpillars hatch out at the beginning of spring, which is now 3 or 4 weeks earlier than it was previously. And so the songbirds don't have enough food to feed their chicks. So we think that's probably why songbird populations are dropping by such a huge amount.
So they all depend upon the same food cycle, and if one is affected, everybody else is affected. I think some one student have raised their hands.
Oh yes, Olivia.
In the fall, how dramatic can the weather change in the summer?
So she's asking if you have dramatic weather events, more dramatic weather events.
Yes, we have. We face different types of, what you can say, untimely heavy rainfall. The climate scores around 40-45 degrees Celsius. We still have not summer season, but we still can feel the hotness prior to 1 month. And in cold climate conditions, colder season, winter season, it's extreme cold. And there are a number of deaths reported due to the very harsh climate, very hot climate, as well as for the cold climate in winter season and the summer season both, especially the people with older age group.
Freya, what was your question? Okay, so here, what Freya is saying is we've got schemes for farmers, incentive schemes for them to add wildlife areas to their farms, and they can get some funding for that. And Freya was wondering if you have similar schemes in Nepal.
No, basically we don't have any schemes right now as far as I know, because the option for the farmers are very less over here in Nepal. They are switching their profession to some other profession or occupation for the survival of their family. They have started selling their land and many lands for the survival. So I don't think that we have schemes.
Thank you. And Zara.
What crops do you grow, and has the changed temperature over the years affected how you grow them or what you grow?
Great. So Zara's wondering what your main crops are. So what are the farmers growing mostly in Nepal, and have they had to change anything that they're doing to because of climate change?
Okay, basically this answer is told by my students. Any student would like to volunteer? That what are the major crops that we grow in Nepal?
Shall I?
Yes, Akanksha.
Major crops that farmers of Nepal grow are wheat, paddy, and maize.
And what are the cash crops that we grow?
Onions.
Any other student would like to add on? Other crops?
Can.
Yes, Lakshmi.
Yes, it's sugar cane.
Sugar cane. So these are the major crops that we grow, and yes, we actually do in the cycle methods like season method, 6 month one crop and 6 month other crop, so we can maintain the fertility of the soil, and the uses of little amount of fertilizers and using of more compost manure.
Thank you. Yeah, please, Zara. Yeah, perfect.
And
thank you.
Yes.
Did any of your students want to ask the Scottish children any questions?
Students, now it's your turn. You can ask questions if you have any questions regarding your friends over there. So you can just put up or throw or shoot a question over them.
What food did we used to eat daily?
What? Akanksha, come again.
What food did you use to eat daily?
Okay, daily breakfast or lunch or dinner. What type of food you eat?
Normally, which food?
What do we eat?
Yes, generally in daily routine.
Right, go on then. Nice and loud, Fergus. What did you have for breakfast?
I had
Toast for breakfast. Anyone have anything else? Yes, Finley?
I toast waffles.
Okay, so like toast, waffle, like waffles you can put in the toaster. Yeah.
Scrambled eggs on toast.
Scrambled eggs, that's quite common, eggs for breakfast. Yeah.
Cereal.
Lots of cereal, very common, you know, Frosties, cornflakes, that kind of stuff. So that's really normal. So it's quick and it's easy. With milk, usually, you know, fresh milk. Anything else? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So if we're really feeling fancy, pancakes. If we're up early enough to make pancakes. Oh, they were bought. Oh, you can buy them from the shops already made, you know, and you put them in the toaster. So, yeah. Oh, yes. So porridge. So I think, you know, Scotland, we like porridge, but more in the winter. You know, I have oats for breakfast in the summer. I have them just with milk, and then in the winter I have them hot because it's too hot to eat porridge for breakfast at the moment. Yeah.
We drink a lot of apple juice, orange juice, tea, coffee.
Yeah, loads of tea. We drink a lot of tea. We drink a lot of coffee. Children and we'll have maybe fruit juice in the morning as well. And finally, William. Rice Krispies. Yeah, it's a kind of cereal, Kellogg's, you know, cereal. So we like that. And then we have a cooked lunch at school. We have a kitchen. They make us lunch. So there's always, our chef is a vegan actually. So there's always a meat option and a vegan option, hot food. So today I know it's burgers. But I can have a vegan burger, so he makes them in the kitchen. There's always salad, there's always soup, and then we have either yogurt or fruit or some kind of pudding, and then you know, sandwiches is very common for lunch. Like that's very common to have a sandwich, a piece of fruit, a bag of crisps, like fried potatoes. That's really common. A little chocolate biscuit, something like that. That's a very normal lunch. For teachers, more coffee. Teachers drink a lot of coffee and tea. How about you guys? What do you like to have?
See, everybody loves food. Okay, students, you want to share what you have written, or have your mom give you breakfast or not till now? Suryansu, let's start with you.
Yes, sir. Sir, often we eat rice and pulses, bread, vegetables. These are our.
You ate all that at once?
No. First, at breakfast we eat bread, and having the lunch we eat rice, vegetables. Again, in the evening we have a light lunch, and at night dinner. In a dinner, often we milk, roti.
What have you had in your breakfast and lunch, Asanshu?
So in my breakfast, I just drank some milk, and in the lunch I ate
what kind of some milk?
Rice,
it was a vegan milk?
vegetables. So?
Okay, fine, keep on. Okay, Aman. Aman, are you there?
Yes, sir.
I thought you were having lunch. Okay, what you have eaten in a breakfast or
So in
lunch?
lunch I ate. In breakfast I ate mango and milk and drank milk.
Okay,
And in lunch I ate rice, pork, and some vegetables with potato chips.
Okay, quite variety of items. Any other student want to share their food? I mean, what food they eat.
May I?
Yes. See, everybody
I ate
talking in school
rice
right now.
with a slice of mango and vegetable of jackfruit.
Yes, it is the
Jackpot.
mango season, so that is why everybody loves eating
And
mango
all.
nowadays, from morning to night.
That sounds amazing.
I love mango. You need to explain them about dal bhat. What is dal bhat? That this is what you eat every day, right? Explain them.
Definitely, it's lots of rice, dal, mixed vegetables, and we are having a little bit of salad. And this is the time of summer, so we eat a lot of curd. Depends upon the families and what they would like to eat. Yes, lots of questions have been raised.
Oh, golly, yes. Olivia.
So you were saying that you have
What about
milk.
food, I think?
Yeah, is that common?
So yeah, she's just saying a lot of you had milk for breakfast. So is that quite a normal thing? We just have milk for breakfast.
I think so. Mostly of them have milk and tea and other supplements that they like to eat. But depends. I think that how many of you like milk in morning to drink? How many of you like to drink milk?
I didn't.
How many do you like? Raise your hands.
Sorry.
Yes, milk. Drinking milk in breakfast.
Only cereal?
Okay. 1, 2. We have 50% of population and who do not like milk.
Who doesn't like milk?
Oh, doesn't it? Yeah, dairy products are very popular in particularly in Northern Europe. You know, it's a huge part of the diet. Cheese, yogurt is really common. We eat a lot of yogurt, particularly children. You know, if your parents don't want you to have too much sugar, because we have a lot of access to very processed sugary foods, and that's quite a problem in the UK for long-term health. Is people are having too much sugar. So, but your mom and dad would normally let you have a yogurt, you know, and they have fruit, a little bit sweet. It's kind of seen as a healthy option for dessert. So we eat quite a lot, particularly children eat a lot of yogurt, good for the calcium for the bones, protein for growth. So it's seen as quite a healthy thing for children to have yogurt, but a lot of cheese and milk too. As well, we drink a lot of
yes,
milk.
we take milk in a different way. Like for example, the people over here drinks too much of tea.
Mm-hmm.
Tea, and I love tea too. So that's why I have different types of routine for having tea, either at home or outside. So while working to give boost, we need tea.
Yes.
At least 4 cups of tea in a day. I can say I'm a tea alcoholic.
Emily?
Here we eat like quite a lot of meat if you're vegan or vegetarian. Do you guys eat like a decent amount of meat?
Yeah, what's your kind of meat like? We're Emily's saying that, especially here, and you know, we're in Scotland, we're in the farming community, and so people eat a lot of meat. Really, you know, at least once, sometimes twice a day, for lunch and for dinner. So Emily's wondering, she's hearing you saying you eat vegetables and rice at lunch. So do you think that maybe you eat less meat than us, or what's your main, like we eat a lot of chicken and beef here?
It's definitely those families non-vegetarian basically. So in weekly basis, I don't know that how many times they eat in a week. So probably they like chicken and mostly chicken in their daily routine. And on special occasion, they have mutton, and they like to have egg also.
Eggs, yeah. Thank you, Olivia.
In Scotland, it's very common to have.
Monastic students, you don't have any.
Do you guys have?
Yeah, what are the fruits grown in Scotland?
The crops.
Fruits.
Raspberries.
Raspberries are very famous actually for growing raspberries. A very good climate for growing raspberries, and Scottish raspberries are like something you might find in London on a menu as being like quite fancy, because we have long, cool summers, so you get a very tasty fruit. But we grow a lot of strawberries now, but in a polytunnel. So, so in underneath plastic tunnels, in Fife in particular. My husband is a cider maker, so he makes Scottish cider. There are orchards, not as many as there used to be. There used to be a lot more. So we can grow apples and they're quite nice. Brambles can be pretty nice. Yeah, any kind of tree fruit. But nothing for hot weather. So we never have mangoes or peaches or grapes or anything like that. It's not hot enough.
Figs, you can't do
We
figs.
can. If you have maybe figs, you would have to have a very hot wall or inside a greenhouse maybe. Most of our fruit is imported. So most of the fruit that we eat comes to us from abroad. A lot from Spain. Where it's warmer.
A lot of our
Italy.
food is imported. We eat a lot of rice that's like you guys do, but that's imported. We can't grow rice in this country.
It's not hot enough to grow rice. So yeah, most of our food comes from abroad. The meat, a lot of our meat is local, but a lot of our food has to be brought in from abroad.
Certainly fruit and vegetables.
Yeah, yeah. Most of the fruit and veg we will eat comes from elsewhere, apart from potatoes. Oh yeah, we grow a lot of potatoes in Scotland. That's a good crop, but it's not a fruit. But we grow lots of potatoes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Is
we eat a
potato
lot of
crash
apples.
crop of Scotland?
Say again?
Is potato crash crop?
Yeah,
Crash crop?
so one of the best places in the world to grow wheat. Again, because we have a lot of sunlight. So in the summertime, it doesn't really get dark. We have almost 24 hours of light, so but it's not very hot. So there's lots of photosynthesis, but it takes a long time for the crop to ripen. So per acre, you get a huge mass of wheat. So we have some of the best wheat growing ground in the world. So we have very good wheat crops. We grow some barley, which we use to make whiskey. And oilseed rape, which makes vegetable oil, and potatoes. Those are our main. Oats, I suppose, but not so much anymore. We can grow oats, but we tend not to. So I don't think you get as much money for that. So wheat, potatoes, oilseed rape, that's the main.
Yeah, some vegetables like Brussels sprouts and cabbages. Yeah.
Yeah. Carrots.
Yeah, some places, yeah.
Yeah,
but mainly I'd say potatoes and wheat are probably the two major crops.
Yeah, for sure. Every farmer that I know either grows potatoes or wheat. That's like, or animals. And lots of sheep, and loads of sheep farms and cattle farms. Lots of beef farming. Anyone here live on a farm? What do you grow, Lockie?
Well, we don't grow anything, but we have a few like trees. We have a small one.
So farming for a job, like, do you have anyone here? Zara, what do your family grow on the farm? Livestock. And what animals do you have? Sheep and cows. So Zara's father is a farmer, and he has livestock, sheep and cows. Yeah. Oh yeah. Fergus? Barley. So they're growing barley. Whiskey is a big industry in Scotland, and you need barley to make it, and beer as well. So barley. Yeah. Sheep. So more sheep farming. Yeah. Livestock. So yeah, there's not as many good. It's very hilly here, so it's not as good for crops because sometimes the soil is very thin. So it's a lot of livestock farming here. Yeah. So yeah, this is a fun question. Children here love Italian food. So we love pasta and we love pizza. So, you know, if you go to a party, a kid's birthday party, then probably you're going to have pizza. So Freya was wondering, like, do you guys like pizza and pasta? Do you have that?
Yeah, pasta, I think they have a lot of love about the pasta. Like we talk about pizzas, so pizzas also available, okay, but the taste depends upon that, how they are produced, or if they are from the, we don't have a very good chain of restaurants over here. So fine, so I have been to Delhi and I have tasted the different pizzas right now. And but in Nepal, there are available pizzas.
Okay, thank you. Do any
So
of
any
you
other
want
questions? Anmesh?
Ma'am, what are the major profession in the Scotland?
Can you repeat your question, please?
Major profession followed in Scotland.
Number of people engaged in occupation. What type of occupation?
What are the main jobs that people have?
Yes, ma'am.
So, oddly, working for the government is one of the main things. So working for the council like me, working for a teacher, collecting the rubbish, working in hospitals, looking after people. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
The brewing industry is big in Scotland. So it's a big employer. So making malt whiskey is very famous. Farming.
Medical profession.
Yeah, so medical. You'll know, Alba, we have very good tradition of scientific research. Scotland has a long history of very famous scientists, and we're quite proud of that. So now alternative technologies as well. So there's quite a lot of people involved in energy generation, either research or constructing of wind farms. Around here, that's quite a big business. But conversely, oil in the northwest of Scotland, because we have oil fields in the sea there in the North Sea.
Tourism's huge. So tourism is really, really important to us.
What about fishing industries? Is there fishing available?
Fishing?
Yeah.
It is, but it's very, very small now. You know, it's we do land fish, but it's compared to, I mean, when you think Scotland used to be so many fishing communities, that's one of the industries that's really collapsed. And also shipbuilding and that kind of thing, we don't really do that anymore. So that aspect of Scottish life has really all but disappeared, really.
There was a huge herring, it was a small type of fish about that big. There was a huge herring fishing industry. And that completely collapsed in the 1940s, 1950s. They used to say that you could walk from Scotland to Norway without getting your feet wet because there were so many herring in the sea. But that's completely disappeared. And a lot of these communities around the coastline have died, basically. So they have big social problems and no jobs.
Yeah,
so that's changed massively in 50 years.
There was also, in our area, there was a big fishing disaster. And it seems incredible for us to think of it now, but there had been bad weather for many, many days, and they hadn't been able to go out fishing. There was a break in the weather, so this is before we had satellites and things. And so the men went out to fish, and the weather turned bad, and the east coast of Berwickshire, which is really where we live, lost about 90% of their fishing boats, and the men all drowned. And in one night. And so all the fishing communities in our area just stopped overnight. Literally 90% of the men were drowned within about 8 hours, all the way up that coast. So again, that led to a huge change for our community because nobody could go out fishing anymore. All the men were gone. It was really huge. It's had a huge impact all the way down the east coast from Edinburgh down to Berwick.
And it was 100 years ago.
It was 100 years ago, but they never recovered.
But fishing boats now are so powerful that you don't need lots of people to be their crews on them. So now there's just not the same number of jobs. There's not enough fish. And now things like fish farming have taken over on the West Coast. That's a huge thing, but that's caused enormous problems on the West Coast of Scotland because it creates so much. It's so damaging environmentally. It's horrendous. But it's a big employer.
And, you know, Scottish salmon is a thing, you know, people want Scottish salmon. So there's a lot of money in it because it's an expensive product. Any other questions quickly I can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 children with their hands raised, you know.
So now they are slowly opening up with their questions. Now they're getting familiar.
Yeah, that's good.
We've got questions.
Yeah.
Okay, students, go ahead, ask your questions.
How many hours did children study in school?
In school.
How many hours were you school, boys and girls?
8.
8 hours a day, 5 days a week. But in that time, we have about an hour and a half of breaks. And also we do a lot of sport. So Wednesday afternoon is only sports. And then we do 2.5 hours of sports Monday, Tuesday. So it's not always in the class. So we're here from 8 till 5.
So it's 8 to 5 for the rest of the year? Same
yes,
timing?
so every day, 8 till 5, all the time. Yeah, every day. But no school on Saturday or Sunday. Yeah. How about you guys? What's your normal day? I mean, I know you're at home now, but if you were in school, what would your hours be at school?
It's 10 to 4. It's 10 to 4 and break of around 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. That's it. No sports.
Is that just for lunch? No sports?
No sports.
No sports. And lunch, would you have lunch?
Yes, that is included in 15 minutes break.
Wow.
We get an hour for lunch.
See, this is the, what you can say, this is the tradition that has been in Nepal or in the education system for a very longer period of time. If we include sports, and although if we convince parents, so many of the parents would tell that, no, sports, no. We are sending our children to study, not to play.
Yes, that makes sense. So you have more time to play at home. That's nice. Do you get homework?
Definitely lots of homework. Students get that much of homework that they need to complain to the management that the particular service is giving lots of homeworks to us.
Very good. Freya, what's your question?
What is do you have a lot of what do you have?
Okay, that's a really interesting question. In geography, they were learning about the different kinds of industry, primary, secondary, tertiary. And in Scotland, things have really changed from most people being involved in the primary industry, where most people now work in tertiary and quaternary industry, so more office jobs and research and things. So Freya was wondering what the structure is like in terms of employment in Nepal.
So basically, in terms of employment, many people are engaged in the service industries.
Yeah.
And in service industries, we are talking about private jobs. Maximum number of people are engaged in private jobs. Very less are in the government sector. And many of the people, I'm talking about millions of people, are in foreign countries to earn. Okay, because so there is employment opportunities in Nepal, so that is why they prefer to go different countries, especially the Gulf countries.
Right.
Gulf states. Okay.
Yeah, especially around, according to the data of Ministry of Labor and Population, I think around 1.7 million people are currently in the Gulf.
And they're sending money home.
Yes, remittance. Our country, Nepal, in terms of remittance, we are receiving, I think, how can you change Arab? What exactly? Arab means, I think maybe in billion yearly. Billions of rupees in remittance.
Gosh, that's really interesting.
And especially the mentality of here that people, after completing students after completing especially class 10 or class 12, they just go for earning job for their family, especially for the Gulf countries, foreign employment. So after they complete 10th or 12th, depending upon the family need and requirement, so they opt out from their higher studies and they need to go to the Gulf countries for the earning.
Okay, thanks, Kunal.
So I was just curious to know about that. What exactly is the total population of Scotland? I haven't searched in net, but I want to know from your side.
So how many people live in Scotland?
Yes.
5 to 6 million.
About 5.5 million. We're quite small. I mean, when you think, you know, the whole of Britain's got something like 65 million. So it's quite a low population, particularly where we live. It's very low. So the borders is like what, 250,000?
So that the data that I have told you right now, it's what you can say, current data or 10 years back data according to the census.
Do you know, Alba?
No, the data. you have told 5 to 6 million. So it is the current data or the data that have issued by the census like 10 years ago?
Oh, when was the last time we had a census? We were meant to have one last year and it got scrapped because of COVID. So I think to say 5.5 million is a pretty good estimate. I think that's about right. But most of those people are going to live in cities. So the urban environment. Glasgow is one of the biggest cities in the UK, over 1 million people. And then Edinburgh, right through the Central Belt. So we have something called the Central Belt, which runs west from Glasgow all the way across to Edinburgh on the east coast. This is where most of the people are living. Then we have Aberdeen, which is a big city in the north. Dundee, which is quite a big city, sort of just north of Edinburgh. So that's where almost everybody lives. So once you get outside of these areas, it's very low population, very rural.
So let me share the population of Nepal. So last time, I think 10 years back in 2011, so the census of Nepal was around 20.6 million.
Wow.
And currently, the estimated overall, the census have not been here right now, that same pandemic issue, but it's now more than 30 million.
Crikey. Gosh, that's huge.
So you can say that population is increasing rapidly and it has all the side effects. And Nepal is not prepared for all of those huge population, and the resources are not enough.
And is that because people are migrating into Nepal, or is that just birth rates?
Yeah, it's birth rates.
Wow.
The average Nepali woman give birth to around 3 babies in her lifetime. So it's an average, 3 babies.
Yeah. So children, Nepalese children, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
See, I am the single child of my parent.
Oh, you?
I'm all alone.
And do any of your pupils have a big family?
Okay, students, how many of you are living in a joint family or extended family? Just tell me the numbers. That yes, my family, total family members are this much.
Yes, sir, my total family member is 8.
8. Any other students?
My total family members is also 6.
6.
Mine is 5.
Any other student?
11.
13.
11.
Who said 13?
Anyone with 13? So mine is also 6. My parents, my wife, and 2 beautiful children.
Lovely. Is it quite normal for your parents to be living with you? So would these children be living with their grandparents? Is that quite common?
Yes, it's quite common.
Right. Does anybody here live with their grandparents? Yeah, here, no. Some of us over lockdown haven't seen our grandparents for nearly 2 years. So we don't tend to live with our parents. My parents live in New Zealand, so never see them. But yes, we have to travel to visit our grandparents here. They don't live with us or even next to us. It's unusual if that would happen. It's a shame actually, because it's probably really nice to have them there.
Yeah, this is what the difference between us.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Blair? Oh, right. Okay, this is another really nice question. Is it normal? Would you have a pet?
Pet.
Anybody have a pet?
Having pet? Students? Anyone having pet? Anything? Cockroach, spider, lizards?
Sure.
No, I think no.
Right. Can you see everybody's hands? Put your hands up if you have a pet. Right. Keep your hand up if you have a dog. 2 dogs? 3 dogs? 4 dogs? Everybody in Scotland is crazy about dogs. They love dogs so much. They have so many dogs. If you live on a farm, you'll have dogs to work with your sheep. Okay, so that's very normal. But otherwise, a pet dog, I mean, hands up if you don't have a dog. Okay, so we're in the minority. Do you have a pet, Mahi? Mahi doesn't have pets, Tanya? No pets?
Yeah.
You have hamsters. Yes, so they've got fish and hamsters, little rodents, you know, pet fish. And I have cats. Yeah.
We used to have pigs.
Pet pigs?
Yeah.
Right, which you don't eat, you just have them for fun?
No, we eat.
Oh, they did eat them. Oh, right, tell a lie. They ate the pigs. No more pet pigs. Yes?
My brother and sister would have sheep.
Okay, yeah, sometimes if you live on a farm, you have a pet sheep just for fun. Sometimes the mother has too many or she rejects, so then they end up being pets. Yeah?
Yeah, we have quite a lot of chickens, which we get eggs from.
Yeah, we live in
I
the
think
countryside, so we
our
can have
students
chickens to
which
play our own
they have
eggs.
visited this village, I think they have they are most familiar with the I think cows and buffaloes and goats. Right,
Yes.
student? Most familiar?
Yes, sir.
If you visit your village. These are the animals that you see often?
Yes.
So more domestic farm animals.
See the what you can say, the way of having pets in our locality basically terms to a little bit of show off and to the rich families. So they like to have pets, and generally in normal families, you are talking about middle class families and all that. They don't go for the what you can say having pets. Although everyone is animal lover, but keeping them inside home, many of we have different types of perception. You know that no animal should stay inside the home, like to maintaining and all of those got a lot of expenses right now. So that is the thing.
Ma'am, what are the cultural heritages of Scotland?
So guys, when we're talking about Scottish culture, Scottish heritage, if you think Scotland, what do we think of? What do we think of? Fergus.
Vikings.
The kilt. So the skirt that the men wear.
Yeah.
So that's and most of the boys here will have a kilt and they'll have a family tartan. So it'll be a particular pattern of the fabric associated with their family, and they'll wear that. So my husband and my son wear the Stuart tartan because that's our surname. So every family, Scottish family, would have its own tartan, and you would use that to make the kilts. But the women don't wear them; it's just the men that wear that. What else? Lily. Okay, people with red hair. So with ginger hair, that's often seen as a Scottish thing, very pale skin, red hair. Yeah. Yes, so we have on our flag, we have the unicorn as our animal. Although our national bird animal is a golden eagle. What else? What else do you think is typically Scottish, Nick? Yes, the Loch Ness Monster. There's a mythical water dragon that lives in a big lake in the north of Scotland, and people come from all over the world to see if they can find it. I've seen it. I've had a typical sighting. I was allowed to report it to the Loch Ness Monster Association. It was great. So yes, very strong mythology, lots of lovely stories, music, beautiful Scottish music. Dancing, special Scottish dancing we have as well. Highland dancing, it's called. Nicole? Bagpipe music. So a special instrument that sounds a bit like you're strangling a sheep. It's got a bag and all these big pipes and you blow into it, and a lot of the traditional Scottish music is played. It was for war. It frightened the enemy. So you would have your pipers at the front of your army, and they would play the pipes to frighten the enemy. So much so that when there was somebody tried to take over Scotland, they outlawed the bagpipes. People weren't allowed to play them because the sound of the bagpipe is supposed to strengthen the spirit of the Scottish person, and they tried to destroy the bagpipe tradition. So people buried their bagpipes in the garden, so that they could have them and pretended that they burned them, but they haven't. So it's a very strong symbol of the strength of Scotland, is the pipes and the music. Who hasn't said anything for ages? Ewan. The haggis. So it's a meat dish we eat once a year at least. It's the traditional Scottish food. You take all the insides of a sheep, the lung, the heart, the liver, you mince it up and you stick it in the stomach with onions and oats and spices, and you boil it. It sounds terrible, tastes amazing. We have this on a national festival once a year. Everybody would be eating the haggis and drinking a whiskey. So that's very famous, famous thing. Maybe one more thing, Loki.
Highland cow.
Oh yeah, so the Highland cow. It's a special kind of cow. We have a PowerPoint. We'll show it to you next time, and you can see all the Scottish things. So yeah, we have a cow. It's huge, big horns, lots of red hair. So those are the things you would see if you saw on an advert for Scotland. You'd see a haggis, you'd see a Highland cow, you'd see a glass of whiskey, you'd see a man in a kilt, you'd see mountains, you'd see a beautiful coastlines and an island. So those are the kind of things, if you watch like tourist videos, that's the sort of thing that you would see.
Okay, so we can do one thing. In our next meet, we're talking about the presentation. So let's have presentation of, like I say, introduction of our country and different cultures, places, historical places. We can share all those things in slides.
That would be great. We can talk about that then. That's nice because I'm really enjoying it. They really want to know about each other's lives and how they live. So that's really nice to do that.
So basically, when we present it in slides, so it will be what you can say specific data that they will be looking for, and they do not have to search over the net, and they'll get enough result that they will not be able to, what you can say, organize it in a good way. So we'll be putting it on slides, so it will be easy for you all to understand, and we'll be sharing those PowerPoint slides to each other, so we'll getting the information.
That sounds brilliant. Just boys and girls, we're about to go on our summer holiday. So we finish school on the 7th of July for 7 weeks. So we'll have to meet then in September. We come back at the end of August. So perhaps we'll have a date. I'll organize with your teacher, and we'll have a date at the beginning of September. Do you guys have a break at this time of year or not really?
So we are having a break right now.
Okay. Yes, lockdown.
Yes, lockdown.
It won't go on forever. I know it's so boring, but we had 2 lockdowns, and so we're out of our second lockdown, and it's very nice when you get to leave the house at last. So just be strong because it doesn't go on forever. You know, you'll get like.
Currently, the thing is that in Janakpur right now, in our area, everything is open. Everything.
Right.
Everything, markets, everything, but only schools are closed.
Oh well, I look forward to seeing you all back in your classroom. Hopefully, next time we meet, we'll all be back in our classrooms.
Fine, we can.
Can I suggest something before we finish the call? I think it would be quite nice if the students they do some type of mural or something summarizing what they learned from the qualitative assessment, from the questions, and including what they think that is the main differences with Nepal, for example, and Scotland. What do you think? Do you think that's doable to do like some type of mural that could be put in the class or something?
I'll have to think about that. Yeah, just I can speak to the art teacher here. I'm a bit limited because I only see my class 3 times a week. But in fact, perhaps in form time, Madam Bruce would be interested in that, wouldn't she? Environmental studies. Can you put that in an email, Alba? I'll run it past it because I won't be able to do it, but I know there are staff that would be keen to get involved. Even if we did like at home, I suppose we could do a panel each, could we? And then make a display outside the classroom or something.
Yeah, that would be also nice.
But I would have to maybe leave that till next term, Alba. But
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, really good. That's really good. Just so that we keep remembering what we learned today. It's been fascinating to hear the differences and the similarities as well.
Exactly.
Been wonderful. Thanks for doing all that hard work, boys and girls. It's been really interesting to hear your stories and to sort of get slightly more conversation with the children. That's been great. You've worked really hard.
So the thing is that it's very easy when the students are in a class and teachers directly tell them and what they have to do, but it's a little bit difficult to having all this in the online session to convey all the information to these students and make them understand that what exactly that they have to do. So that is why it takes time, but students are doing their best. And I can see that last time when we had made the students of St. Mary's used to wear mask, but now I don't think anyone is wearing a mask right now.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, well, it's mostly to protect us, but we've all been immunized. So all the oldies, we've all been immunized against COVID. So there's less of a worry, you know, because the children have been okay, but it's been affecting the older people more. So now that everybody on staff has been immunized at least once, most of us have been done twice. So it's getting a lot safer for us to socialize and not have our masks. So yeah.
Right.
I've got mine there. I still have to wear mine when I go around the school, but not in my classroom anymore.
Now the clothes of schools, and I think if the fashion trend to like the mask will be attached in the clothes when they'll go to purchase from the showroom. You can get extra mask free.
Yeah. We still have to wear them everywhere outside. So if I go to the shops or anything, I have to have my mask on. But in schools and things, we're being a little bit more flexible.
Students, you still need to ask any questions?
How many subjects
Yes, sir.
usually study? How many subjects?
Okay, one by one.
So can I ask first?
Okay.
What are the languages usually spoken by the people there?
English, unless you're in the west coast of the islands, and then we have a Scottish language called Gaelic. A very small percentage of the population will speak that. They're educated in Gaelic, they speak Gaelic at home, but it's very small pockets on the west coast, on the islands. But almost everybody in Scotland just speaks English now.
Any other question?
Does natural disasters occur there?
Aman, okay, Aman.
Keen to know about their national fruit.
Does natural disasters occur there?
No, not really. It's very unusual for us to have weather that's so bad that we have disasters. The only thing that we've had recently really is flooding. So we had a very bad flooding, and we lost some people whose the train tracks collapsed. So that was last year. We've had a few road closures, but no injuries. We had one recently in the north of here. The main route to Edinburgh was shut because of a landslide, but nobody was injured. But yeah, we did lose a few people in Rialba in that awful train accident last year. So it's mostly flooding.
I have another question.
Okay, Simran, go.
Do you worship God?
How many people here go to church? Anyone? Hector, you go? You go? Yeah, it's
on Christmas. Yeah, Christmas.
Yeah. So we tend to celebrate the bigger festivals. Christmas and Easter are big. Pretty much everybody would be Christian. We celebrate Christmas in the school. We go to church at Christmas time with the school for a service. But we don't have that many religious families here. Is your family Catholic, Isaac? I'm asking Isaac because he's Irish, so it's more common for Irish families to be Catholic, but they're not particularly religious. Your family? Granny was. Yeah, our grandparents were more religious. Even our parents aren't particularly, my generation isn't particularly religious really anymore. But Christianity is the main religion in this area.
So how many number of days or holidays did you get in a year for, I think, festival holidays?
Oh, The thing is, in Scotland, it's very different to England. So I don't know how many, a couple of 100 years ago, there was a separation between the church and the state. And so schools effectively aren't religious, and the state is non-denominational, so there's no religion associated with the state either. So we tend not to have religious festivals, and in fact, not even Christmas Day was a holiday. Most people I know who are about 20 years older than me, they worked on Christmas Day, they worked on Easter Sunday, they just worked. There was no religious festivals at all. And now we can have days off. I think 2 days off at Christmas. The big festival is New Year's in Scotland. It's called Hogmanay. That's the huge festival. So the turning of the year. And you'll get 2 days off then, and maybe 2 days off at Easter, and that's it.
Okay, so basically Nepal is a secular state, so we respect every religion. So whenever there is the major festival in any of the religion, there is a holiday, and it's like about on an average, it's I think 52 days holiday in a year.
I love that. That's absolutely brilliant. That's
great. Especially the person who are engaged in jobs. Especially the teacher are benefited from him because they will get a 1 month paid salary, paid holiday, apart from any other jobs.
That's amazing.
1 month holiday.
It's 52 days off a year for religious festivals. So every single religion is respected, and so if a religion is having a festival, everybody gets the day off.
That's exactly the length of your summer holidays. So,
yeah, that's amazing. That's wonderful. Do you enjoy the festivals, children? Do you have festivals you celebrate with your families?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the one that you have? What's your big festival?
Dasai.
Nepal Dasai is the big
Dasai is a big festival.
So according to different perspective, like Buddhism and Hinduism, Dasai Tihar is the biggest one. But if you talk about the other community, like for example in Madhesh and many of people in India celebrate Chhat Puja and Deepavali. And one of the biggest Hindu festival is Ram Navami. Basically, it's the marriage ceremony that we reenact like between Lord Ram and Goddess Sita.
Got you. Okay.
In which the people from India and Nepal, they both come here at Janakpur because this is the birthplace of Goddess Sita, and the same marriage ceremony process forms over here. So it's like a kind of 7-day celebration.
Very good. Wonderful. Lovely. Olivia.
What are some of the traditional Nepalese names?
Oh, she's wondering if you've got any traditional Nepalese names.
Traditional Nepalese names. Students.
Ram, Sita.
Okay.
Sher Bahadur Khadka.
Any other older names?
Sia, Meena,
Bimal.
So these are the names basically.
Thank you very much. That's great. We all good, boys and girls? Did you enjoy that today? That was fab. That's wonderful. So nice to see you all. And we're going to go and pick up some litter now from the local park. That's our next job. We're going to go and see what has been left by all the tourists who've been here this week. So we're going to go and do that. Luckily, it's not raining. It's sunny today, so that's going to be a nicer job without the rain. But thank you for coming today, and thank you for speaking with us. That's been wonderful, and I hope you enjoy the next few weeks of school. We'll see you when we get back from our holidays.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, and wishing you very
Okay, we'll be friends.
Bye.
Bye bye,
everybody. All the best. See you soon.
Bye everybody.
Bye bye.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Okay, students,
right.
You can leave the meeting and you can go on, and if there is time left, then you can join your online classes.
Perfect. Okay, guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye bye, everyone.